Hello, folks, and greetings from Munich, Germany. My name is Ted Ganger, and I bid you welcome wherever you are and whatever time of the day it is for you where you are to my new installment of my free online live coachings for singers and pianists and anyone who wants to tune in. I hope that we will have an entertaining time in the next maybe hour and three quarters. I'm very happy to be the host to three wonderful singers. Believe it or not, folks, this time I have two men and one woman. Usually it's very hard to find male singers actually in the opera world. The women are very much in the majority. And this time we have a mezzosoprano from Germany, Judith Ellinger, or Judith Ellinger, or however she's going to pronounce it. We'll ask her soon. And then a tenor, I think from Utah in the United States, Esteban Senzig. I suppose you would say an Argentinian American, but he can tell us that too. And then finally, a dear friend and colleague of mine, a Dutch baritone who right now I assume is sitting at home in Augsburg, Wiard Witholt. We're going to be doing two opera arias from very, very famous popular operas, Il Trovatore by Giuseppe Verdi, um, La Bohème by Giacomo Puccini, and a song by a not quite so famous composer. Well, modesty prevents, but yes, it's me. My name is Ted Ganger, and in case you don't know this from previous encounters with me or my classes, I am an American pianist, conductor, or used to be a conductor, vocal coach, singer-songwriter, and veteran or survivor of thousands and thousands of opera auditions. And the last time around, a month ago, I spent close to an hour at the beginning talking about various aspects related to the beloved process called auditioning, which, for obvious reasons, is very key, unfortunately, to singers' careers. Believe it or not, even after an hour, there was something I didn't really get to talk much about. And so I'd like to add that on now before we get to the singers for about 10 or 15 minutes and talk a bit about the species of humans and musicians called pianists. Needless to say, pianists are very near and dear to my heart. And they are definitely part of the audition process. And so I think it's very important for any pianists who might be there, but certainly for the singers who are involved in auditioning to get to know a bit more about how to get the best possible support from the pianists. Now, there are two different kinds basically of auditions. One is called a house audition. It takes place in a theater, an opera house, and usually they have a pianist from their staff who is playing the auditions. And that pianist might be very experienced and might be completely inexperienced. And that's something you need to prepare yourself for mentally and also in every other possible way. And then there's what's called agency auditions, which are sort of the gate to the house auditions. An agent is there to sort out the singers and sort of match them up with any vacancies that are available in the opera houses and send the singers out. And there, the pianist usually is also provided. That pianist is usually very experienced, and you can assume that the pianist can play more or less all of the standard repertoire more or less well. However, in a house audition, you might, as a singer, have a little bit of time to reach an understanding, even perhaps to rehearse with the pianist who's been assigned to you. Or you can bring your own pianist. And for the singers who've asked me, is that frowned upon? Do they look askance if you bring your own pianist? No, they don't. It's fine. It's certainly fine with a pianist, and it's fine with the house if you have somebody with you um, whom whom you know, with whom you've worked, whom you trust, who just makes you feel a little bit more secure in a very insecure situation. In And the same goes for an agency audition. It's okay to bring your own pianist too. Nobody will feel affronted or insulted. But what you should know about an agency audition is usually you will not have any time at all with, with the assigned pianist beforehand. You just bring in the music into the room and put it in front of the pianist, and you're off to the races. And so it's very important for the singers to give as much thought as possible to preparing the music and their own attitude so that the pianist can give the best support possible. Now, as I say, some of them are good and some of them are less good, and some of them are pretty terrible, at least in houses. And you just have to find some way of dealing with it. But what they all have in common is, first of all, they're all people, they're all human beings. And second of all, they're trying to do their best. They don't want to make a fool of themselves, and they don't want to make a fool of you. So they will be accompanying you to the best of their ability. And that's something you should never lose sight of. Now, having said that, your preparation for the pianist starts with your selection of repertoire. This is something I touched on the last time around. And if anybody is interested, you can find on my YouTube channel, Ted Gang of Songs, or on my Facebook page, the previous master classes, and tune in to the first part of the last one. That's number 3, where I talk a lot about the audition process in general. But specifically in terms of the pianist, the repertoire that you choose, you should always have the pianist in mind and not serve up something that is not only unknown for other reasons as well, but difficult or impossible to play at sight, because it will not be to your advantage to have your partner at the piano struggling to somehow get through it, let alone to do a good job on accompanying and supporting you. So that's something you should have in mind already when you choose your repertoire. Having chosen your repertoire, the next step is to get what's known in English as sheet music. The Germans just call it Noten, notes. And that sheet music is, so to speak, the bridge between you and your intentions and the pianist. Nowadays, you can find more or less everything on IMSLP, also known as Petrucci, or in other places for free or very cheap. And that is a big temptation. So it's very important, I think, that you not only look at the price or non-price of the music before you download it, but also the quality. Is it something from 1793, handwritten, and it's a copy of a copy of a copy? That's something you do not want to put in front of a pianist. So get a good, playable edition, even if it costs you a couple of dollars to do it. It's worth it. I highly recommend the editions, if you're talking about very standard audition repertoire, in the Schirmer, the new Schirmer anthologies. The old ones, like from 1896, before they revised it, they're okay, but they're not great. But the new edition that they brought out about 20 or 30 years ago is really very excellent. And Peter's edition has also put out an excellent anthology. And I think Ricordi also has very good modern anthologies of audition repertoire. So perhaps it's worth the investment. If you're bringing a book, for instance, one of these anthologies, make sure the book will lie flat on the music stand at the piano, because a pianist only has two hands and does not have a third hand to be slapping it flat all the time while trying to play. That's not good. So it's perhaps better to make a good photocopy of the actual arias you're going to be singing. Now, coming to that, now you've picked your repertoire and you found a good edition and you're making a copy. Always make two copies at the beginning and mark one copy P for pianist. And that copy you do not write your own notes on from your voice lessons or coachings. That is sacred and it's reserved only for the use of the pianists. And that copy should be bound. If you're an American or Canadian, you should know that in America, the ring binders have 3 holes and the hole punches have 3 holes. And in Germany, they usually only have 2, sometimes 4, but usually 2. So make sure that you don't get caught up short by that. So bring your own ring binder from the States and perhaps your own hole punch. The music you're going to be using for auditions should be put in an album, a ring binder, or it should be taped together. It should not be loose. And I've heard so many singers say, but my coach or my whatever told me he likes loose pages. I cannot imagine why, because it's hard enough to play the piano and turn the page at the same time, let alone be shoving used pages across or throwing them onto the floor. Do not put it on big wide pages that are double spaced, because then the pianist has the problem of removing a double page and there's no place to put it except throwing it quickly on the floor in order to go on playing. So it should be single pages. And one thing, if you take out any book, unless you're Chinese, you will find that the odd numbered page is always on the right. And music publishers have that in mind when they do the layout for these arias, because sometimes they know the pianist has to turn the page. And so they plan the page turns at the bottom right. And for that reason, it's important that the odd numbered page be on the right-hand side, like in a regular book, because that may very well be where the page turn is, just, half a second to turn the page without falling out of the saddle at the piano. Now, okay, you have the music, you have it put in order. You should have in your ring binder or with you in separate pages only the arias you're going to be singing to avoid confusion. And when you enter the room, they should be ready to go. You should know what you're going to start with, and it should be there first. And put that piece in front of the pianist. Don't expect the pianist to sort through your music to look for the aria that they've asked for, that you want to sing. You should be finding it for the pianist and put it in front of them. Now, let's assume that the music is ready to go. Now, what I wanted to say also about keeping the pianist copy, free. I have played from a lot of music that was scribbled to illegibility in red and purple and green and blue for the sake of the singer, with dogs and cats and suns and moons and glasses and telephone numbers and all sorts of images. That's very distracting if you're just trying to play the music. So keep that on your music and not on the music of the pianist. So as I say, keep these two copies very separate. What you give the pianist should contain everything that the pianist can possibly know without your telling him or her in order to play it at sight. In other words, if you need a little time, put a little squiggle. If you need time for a breath, put the breath mark in. If you need a tenuto or a fermata, put it in there. If you're going to do a cadenza at some point, it's not a bad idea to have that cadenza written out so that the pianist can read it and knows when to come back in. If you're doing a cut, make the cut so clear, so unmistakable that the pianist's eyes are led from the beginning of the cut to the end, and do that cut. I can't tell you how many times a singer has come to me right before the audition and said, well, there's a cut marked in here, but I don't do that cut. But I do this other cut instead. And don't do that to the pianist or to yourself. Make it as clear and easy as possible for the pianist to play the way you're going to do it, so that their ears are free to listen to you and they can just concentrate on giving you the best support possible. Now, as I say, especially in agency auditions, you may not have a chance to rehearse or even to talk to the pianist before. So you must go in knowing your tempo, and I mean really knowing it. So practice giving the pianist, if the pianist says, how fast do you want this? You should be, don't give a metronome mark. Please don't say, I take it at 134 or something like that, because unfortunately, most of us do not have metronome implants or apps in our brains. So it's important that you be able to demonstrate the actual tempo that you're going to want. Usually, I have found that singers, because they're nervous and they're not really singing full out, they'll say da 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 da, and you would think, okay, that's the tempo, and then they got up and go da 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 da, and suddenly it's usually about a third slower. So try to avoid that. Give them the real sung out full body tempo that you're going to want. Now, assuming that you're not being given the tempo that you want, there are two ways to react. And this is something that you should practice, and you can practice it. Let's assume that there's practically no introduction, just maybe a bar. For instance, at the beginning of Non so più cosa son, cosa faccio by Cherubino, you have no time to correct the tempo except once you start singing. And then you have to show your real tempo immediately. Immediately. If it's too fast or it's too slow, you have to correct it and be brave about that, because the pianist is not deliberately giving you the wrong tempo. And to just try and sweat it out and get through the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes in the wrong tempo is suicide. So make sure you can correct that tempo immediately, because after 3 or 4 bars, it's very, very hard to change the tempo, and it's really asking a lot. And also practice sticking to your tempo. Don't expect the pianist to keep you in the tempo that you started in. The other possibility is that there's a longer introduction, and then you have a chance to just say very calmly and nicely and quietly to the pianist, a little faster, please, or a little slower, please. Don't conduct them. Don't stamp your foot or beat time on the piano or any of those things. Just say a little faster, a little slower. And then, as I say, when you come in, show them what you need. And one last thing about the care and handling of pianists. Be nice, because you may think they did a terrible job and you were very poorly served by them, but they're there for a reason. And the reason usually is somebody knows them and likes their playing or is friends with them or more than friends. And for whatever reason, they already have a job. And this is something that you should be figuring in. And so don't blame anything on the pianist, even if the pianist did a terrible job, they'll know. Your listeners will know. They can tell the difference. And if push comes to shove, you may have to get through the piece more or less a cappella, and just forget about the accompaniment. But if possible, try and make music. Try and size up the person sitting at the piano immediately and figure out, is this somebody I can make music with, or do I have to just go my own way? But whatever you do, be nice. So that's my little mini lecture sermon on the care and treatment of the pianists. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome my first guest, a mezzo-soprano from Germany. I would pronounce her name in German, Judith Ellinger, but she might pronounce it differently. And we'll find that out soon. She's going to sing the opening aria of the figure named Azucena from Verdi's Il Trovatore. And we're going to start out with the video she made of it and then work live. So welcome, Judith.
Oh,
That was Judith on video. This is Judith live and more or less in person. Hello, Judith or Judith. Tell me how you like to pronounce your name for us.
Hello, Ted. It's as you like. Well, when I say it in Germany, it's Judith. But if I talk to you, you can pronounce it like Judith.
Okay.
I had
All right.
a voice teacher. My first voice teacher came from Canada, and her name was Judith too. So it's no problem.
How confusing. But you didn't get mixed up who was who, right?
Yes, it was okay.
Just tell us, just for a few seconds, tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us, if you don't mind, a little bit about what you just sang.
Well, about me, it's I started singing in Cologne with Clacy Kelly, and I sang, for example, Charis on stage, and we had the orchestra from the WDR, and there was even a radio. Or they how do I tell it? They aufnehmen. What is the name in
Recorded
English?
it. They
Yes,
recorded
they
it.
recorded it for the radio. That's it. And I worked with Marcus Creed too. I could sing with him Agnus Dei von Rossini. And but I did some auditions, and finally I didn't go on stage. But I went to school because I'm a teacher too. I studied French and
Ah.
music for going to school. So I went to school, but I miss singing so hardly that now I restarted. Well, I always sang. I never stopped singing, but I want to go back on stage.
Okay. Well, I would like to start with a couple of compliments. You sing really, really well, and you have a very strong presence, a very strong personality that comes out even in this video.
Thank you.
And you're obviously also a very thoughtful person. You gave a lot of thought as to how you wanted to present this. But tell us a little bit about the figure, just a little bit about Azucena and what she's singing about here.
Yes, Azucena is a gypsy, and her mother died in the stake on the stake, and she had to die because the count thought that she had enchanted his child. And Azucena was young; she was a girl. That's what they say in the libretto. She was a girl, and she saw how her mother burned on the stake. And
She was a child, but you say she was a child, but she already had a baby.
yes, she had a baby, so she was her child. I thought about this, but I think she was quite young, maybe, well, she was not an old mother. And she threw her own baby on the stake.
By mistake. If I can just, if I may just fill this in a little bit, I don't know how long ago this was that she witnessed this, but it was a very traumatic experience for her, obviously, seeing your own mother burnt at the stake as a witch by these horrible people. And it implanted a memory in her that she can't get rid of. And I think it's made her a little crazy. But in any case, um, in her state of shock, she went and got the count's baby to throw the count's baby into the fire. And by a horrible mistake that hopefully only happens in 19th century Italian opera, she threw the wrong baby into the fire. And she tells about this later. But in the aria, she's remembering the image of experiencing helplessly with her own baby in her arms, seeing her mother burned alive by these horrible people. And that's what she's singing about.
Yes.
So One thing, folks, I don't know whether you noticed this, but I've seen this video a couple of times. And one thing that impressed and amazed me is the fact that you do not blink your eyes a single time.
Really?
Tell us how you did that.
I didn't recognize it, but when I sing it, I have all the imagination of this moment when the mother is burning, and this must be really cruel. So I'm in this state of emotion, maybe because of this emotion.
That's amazing, because the aria is probably 2.5 minutes long, you know, with the introduction and everything. And from the moment you turn to face the camera, you do not blink your eyes once. And I thought, that's an amazing trick. She must have some Halloween eyes in or something like that. But no, she really can. That's very impressive, because I've noticed from these things and watching myself on video, I blink my eyes a lot, and you did not even once. So the impression of that, aside from it being a very impressive trick, is that you're sort of in a trance. You're sort of hypnotized. You're in your own inner world looking at this. And as I said at the beginning, I'm also very interested in the audition process, and how does one present. And in the course of the next hour and a half with these three singers, I'm going to be asking a couple of questions that I don't really know the answers to, but I think it's important for you, for you as listeners, and certainly you as singers, to think about these questions and find your own answers. So one question here is, how do you present this in an audition, since you're not on stage wearing strange gypsy clothing around a campfire, and your son Manrico is there and all the other gypsies? And by the way, I'm aware that you're not supposed to say gypsy anymore nowadays, but unfortunately, I can't think of another way of explaining this plot, because they are gypsies, unless they change the plot completely for reasons of political correctness. So forgive me my political incorrectness here, um, but this is taking place at a gypsy campfire, and obviously that's not a situation in an audition room. So how do you make this present? One way, I think, is to look totally concentrated and focused the way you do, and not blink your eyes a single time, which is that's very impressive, as I say. Another way to go is to play it out in some way, and this is a decision that each singer has to make. How far can I go? Do I want to go physically, or with the voice, or with my facial expression in trying to bring this to life? Now, there are two things, there's several basic things I want to say. First of all, you sing really, really well, and you're very intense, but sometimes you're a little bit under the pitch, a tiny bit under the pitch. And it's especially when you're coming down, when you're going into the, and especially che salsa, that you go a little flat when you catch. So it makes it sound a little bit matte,
Mhm.
and you don't want that. It's really important that what you're doing, especially because this is written very much in the low and middle voice, that there be an edge. I don't want to say sharpness, but an edge to it, so that it's as present as possible. And if it's a little bit below the pitch, you lose that. It makes it sound a little bit muddy, and it needs to have a bit more brightness. Another way of putting a bit more edge on it is in the rhythm. And you go, da stridere la vampa, and I need vampa without it going ba, but it has to sound like. It has to have, although you shouldn't lose the legato. Otherwise, we lose the drama of the dotted rhythms. Could you do that?
Yes, I will try it.
Sing the first verse and think of those things. And one other thing before you start it, because she's going to be working with a backtrack now. I mean, this is quite a luxury that she was able to find a backtrack or hire an orchestra to accompany her on this. I mean, that's a luxury we're not used to usually here, but we're happy to have a full orchestra playing this piece. But there are little trills in. When I play a piano piece and they're short trills, I have to know exactly how many trills am I going to go, or am I going to go? So that's really important for me, and so that you come out of it with great precision. So could you do that, please? Just
Yes.
sing the beginning. Good. Okay, good. Good. I'd say that's a big step in the right direction. The downside of that is then we really hear the intonation on every note, and it has to be exactly right. And I know these intervals are very close together, and it's kind of a muddy area of any mezzo's voice, let alone soprano. So this is something that it would be worth working on really slowly, and then putting it back into tempo with the legato line that is carrying you through.
Yes.
In other words, taking it apart a little bit and then putting it back together again in the way that you were delivering it before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I admire very much about it starts in piano and then it goes. So that it's alternating dynamically. And this is something that a lot of singers do not do. You get it all sort of loud between mezzo forte and forte or fortissimo. And you're very careful about doing that. You're very conscious about the dynamic. I mean, you're really a very good musician, and we hear that. But if you're singing on stage in an opera a lot, and I know that you've done Hansel, for instance, Hansel and Gretel, and you've been in the Magic Flute. There's piano and there's piano, and unfortunately, an operatic piano still has to be well supported and very intense and not quite loud, but loud enough. So that's something that all singers have to work on all the time. How can they give at least the sense that there are dynamic differences going on without their losing the support? So could you just go on right from there?
From Urli?
Yeah. Urli di echeggiano. Good, good. That's very good. Stop right there. That's very good. You still go a little flat when you go K. Make sure you're really on a B natural. Que salsa, because everything after that is also a little bit on the low side. So my advice is to practice this slowly and very precisely, and then put it into the tempo. But otherwise, it's very, very good. There's one other thing I want to talk about. First of all, just tempo, and this is for all of you. I've said in other situations in these classes, always pay attention to the metronome mark that the composer has provided. However, you have to make your own decision. Now, this was provided with the metronome mark by Verdi that is 60, and that 60 would be, and nobody sings it that fast because then all the details get lost. You're singing it at between 48 and 50. I do have a metronome thing app implanted in my brain, and I'm just saying this. So always look at the metronome mark that the composer wrote down, and then make a decision that works best for you. Now, there's one other thing I want to talk about, or in two parts. First of all, the text, the lyrics to this aria are such that even an Italian nowadays would not understand a lot of the words. It's a very old-fashioned, very um, very stodgy, kind of self-consciously poetic stage Italian from 170 years ago. And so and you sing it well, although you have to be careful about your T's. It's indomita, it's not indomita. That's a dead giveaway of a German, that you don't do a dental T. But otherwise, for my American ears, I think the pronunciation and the enunciation is good. But some of the phrases, they actually should go together, and sometimes they should be separate. And that will help you phrase. If you think obviously you're going to breathe after every 4 bars. There's no other way, and there's always a rest. But sometimes you should be thinking through, and sometimes making a full stop or a half stop. And that will help you give more variety to the way you phrase it.
Mhm.
The other part of that is this aria has 2 verses. And musically, the 2 verses are absolutely identical. There isn't a single note or a single rhythm that is different between the first verse and the second. And I think it's important, if you're going to sing both verses, that you find a way of doing the second verse differently, so that we don't have the feeling, oh, we've already heard this before. I mean, the words, they sound a little different, but otherwise, it's the same thing again, and I don't think I really need to hear this. So it's important that you plan the second verse with the first verse in mind, and the first verse with the second verse in mind. There are certain things that you're going to wait until the second verse to do. So could you just do the entire aria through, after having said all these things, the entire aria one more time, and try and be a little bit more spontaneous, a little bit more inventive, a little bit more colorful, and also feel free to be more alive to the situation that you're seeing in your mind, not just the trauma that it left you with, but the drama of being there and seeing the fire and these horrible faces, and seeing your mother thrown into the fire and screaming. And what she's screaming is, "Avenge me." So,
Yes, I have a question because I thought about it. How could I make this difference between the two verses?
yeah.
And I thought that I could play it, maybe, but this is my question. as if I didn't know that my mother will come now. Because the first verse is La folla indomita corre al fuoco, lieta everybody's happy. So she sees how
Oh,
they
no.
are.
No,
It's urli di gioia.
no, she's been mentioned in the first verse already.
Okay, so
She's already been mentioned because she says,
Donna s'avanza.
Donna s'avanza.
Yes,
A,
it could change.
a woman comes forward.
Yes, this is the moment she sees her. I thought that she could be, as she is maybe a bit not very old, and she sees the fire and everybody is happy, that she didn't recognize that it's for her mother, but only in the moment when Donna s'avanza.
Okay.
You think that's possible, or
I
it's
think
too hard?
you should try it.
Okay.
Sell it to us.
Okay, I will try it.
Okay, so do it from the beginning and do everything I said perfectly. No, don't worry about that. Just if you don't mind my saying so, give us a real experience here, okay? Because that's what we really want to come away with. All these other details. I mean, you're a very painstaking singer and musician and artist. I can tell that. And I know that you will do all this stuff, but obviously you can't do it all at once and also be alive to the moment. So what I think is most important is to show us the actual situation and let us experience it through your eyes. Suddenly, good. That was really very good. I don't need to repeat the details, all the details, but I think in general it was much more alarming to watch. Just two things that I want to leave you with. First of all, now that we have you more in full body as opposed to the video, we're conscious of what you're doing with your hands. And for instance, in the second verse, when you're using your hands to show your horror, it's very arresting. That's very compelling. However, when you're not doing that, you also need to be, for instance, at the beginning of the aria, very conscious of how you're using your hands. Don't use them to beat time, for instance.
Okay.
I saw that a little bit. Singers, they act like normal human beings until they have to sing, and then suddenly they don't know what to do with their hands and their arms. And there is a certain amount of tension in your upper body that is reflected in your arms too. So you need to get rid of that and then use your hands and arms in a very intentional way. And if you have really nothing that you want to say with your hands and your arms, don't do anything. Just use them normally at your side. And the other thing, you get behind the tempo a little bit and take away the time that you have for the dotted rhythms by holding the first note too long. So whatever you do on whether the long note is good or bad, keep counting. Don't give yourself a little bit more time for that note because it's so great or because it's not so great. Stay in tempo because the fast thing, dotted rhythms come after the first note, and you have to be in motion. So just keep moving and let the voice develop in the time that it actually has for that. And also in terms of these little trills, I would just do a turn. I wouldn't go. There you have to go. So know exactly what notes you're going to sing, and it will make it all cleaner and more present.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, I hope that this gave you a little bit of food for thought, but it was already on such a high level, and it was wonderful exchanging ideas with you. And I definitely encourage you to use your own ideas to make it as alive and as personal as possible. And I'm sure that you will make a big impression that way. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
So that was Judith in Germany. And we now get on our magic flying carpet and go to, I believe, someplace in Utah in the United States and meet a tenor named, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong because I don't speak Spanish, Esteban Senzig. At least the last name looks a little bit German, but it'll give us something to talk about. He's going to sing the sort of introductory aria that Rodolfo sings to sort of make his first move on this cute girl who's just come into his apartment named Mimi in Puccini's La Bohème. And he's going to tell us all about himself. So take it away, Esteban.
Hello, my name is Esteban Senzig, and I will be singing Che gelida manina. Che gelida manina, se la lasci riscaldar, cercar che giova al buio non si trova. Chi sono un poeta, che cosa faccio? Scrivo e come vivo, vivo. In povertà mi allieta, sciallo le gran signore, rivedi l'indamone, per sogni e per chimere, aprir castelli in aria. L'anima ruban tutti i gioielli, due ladri gli occhi belli. V'entrar con voi per ora, ed i miei son usati, e i miei son miei. Tosto sidi leguar, mai la foto non m'ancora. Poiché va preso santa la speranza. Or che mi conoscete, parlate voi, e parlate chi siete. Vi piaccia dir.
Hello, Esteban.
Hey, Ted.
Greetings to Utah. Is that right? Are you in Utah?
Yeah, Provo, Utah.
Provo. Okay. And that's where you're from, right?
Yeah, so you said my name right. Awesome. And then my last name has a weird story with it being from Sicily. And then during the war, everyone went to France. There's also a town in France called Les Senzig, French. And then Germans took the last name, but originally it was from Sicily, Asensio.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm Italian and Peruvian descent.
Fantastic. Wow. Folks, I want to introduce a term that you may or may not know from the opera world, backstage or in auditions. It's called money notes. Now, singers talk jokingly about their money notes, but unfortunately, or fortunately, it's not just a joke. An aria or even a role has certain notes that have to be really good. And if they're really good, it's worth a lot. And Esteban obviously has the money notes, and I don't have to tell you which they were. I mean, that's really, also, I don't like to talk about people's age because, I mean, I've been in the business long enough, but Esteban is ridiculously young. At least he says he is. So,
I don't feel young, but yeah.
I mean, to be so young and so good, and I believe you're still a student somewhere.
Yeah, I'm a student at the university here called Utah Valley University. That's where I've studied under Dr. Isaac Hurtado. He's the director of opera here. And yeah, I've been studying since, it feels like forever, but everyone says that I'm so young, and I'm like, I don't feel young. But
Well, I think any of you who want to learn how to sing should go to Utah Valley University and study with Isaac Retato
yeah,
and learn to sing the way Esteban does, because that's very impressive. I mean, this guy has also won regional or district auditions for the Met Opera auditions, and he will. I hope he's not listening to me say this, but he's going to do very well, I think.
no,
You didn't hear me say that, did you?
yeah.
Good.
Oh, thank you very much. It's like, a lot of practice, a lot of dedication. This is not only my career, this is my passion. This is what I want to do with my life. And so for me, I'm slowly getting there with being ready to take the stage. I've done a few performances. I just got accepted for the Mediterranean Pacific Opera Festival in Sicily, under the direction of oh my gosh, I forgot his name. I'll remember his name in just a second. But over there, but unfortunately, it was.
You can tell us later.
Yeah, I'll tell you later. It was postponed until next year, and I was going to go do Rodolfo for La Bohème.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, folks, he's going to be singing Rodolfo.
Yeah.
And I mean, who better to sing this? And however, I have never met a singer that I didn't have anything to say to, and I have a lot of things to say to you.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'll get started.
Yes.
In your video, the camera is very far away from you, and you do a pretty good job of playing the scene with an invisible Mimi. I mean, Mimi is standing there with him in the dark. He's arranged for it to be dark. Get it, folks? And she wants to go, and he grabs her hand and says, no, wait, I want to tell you about, oh, your hand's so cold. Oh, and stay here and let me warm it for you. And I think we should get to know each other a little bit. So he's putting on the charm, not only with his money notes, but with the warmth of his Sicilian Peruvian personality. And now in the albums, I don't know what you took this from the full score. And in the full score, you have, as your pianist plays, and you sing, it would be easier to come in if you had the few bars before. And she goes, and then otherwise you just have this one note, so this way you can get into the mood more easily and be more in the situation. And you do play. One thing I like about you, and there's a lot to like, one thing I like about you is you seem basically very calm. There's a certain relaxation. I mean, you're singing with passion. But if you're meeting this girl and it's dark in the apartment and she's in a strange place and she doesn't know whether you're a monster or something like that, there's something very reassuring about your delivery. However, you might find it helpful to sometimes be more urgent and not just calm her.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be singing both. Gelida manina, se la lasci riscaldar, cerca. Don't make more of it yet. Just sort of keep it moving. It should be andantino.
Okay.
So you should already be in the flow. And don't put on too much of a show. Just kind of let it happen.
Okay.
Now, one thing I notice is you have a good either natural or learned legato. However, I do notice if I listen very carefully, your legato consists often, not always, but often of individual notes that you connect. And the result is E gelida manina se la lasci risca. You know, instead of se la lasci instead of one sound that goes the entire phrase and is articulated by the individual notes. Now I know that the first phrase is just, so what are you supposed to do? But still, there has to be a sense that the dolcissimo comes partly from this sense of line, of legato. So have a line that's going through the entire phrase and try and make the individual notes part of that arch.
Okay, perfect.
So could we just do the beginning?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to stop you and we'll go on.
Yeah. Jack Lavigne is his name. I just remembered. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. Good to know. He'll appreciate that.
Yeah. Che c'eri la marina se la lasci riscaladar, cercare che giova al buio non si trova.
That's better. Keep going.
Ma per fortuna una notte di luna e qui la luna l'abbiamo vicina. Aspetti, signorina, le dirò con due parole. Chi son, che faccio come vivo.
That's already good. And you know, this place where you closed your eyes while you were singing, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
That was great. Do that. That's a good effect.
Maria Callas it, you know, when she just closes her eyes and sings it.
Now, because she's going to think, wow, he can sing this from memory. No, that's very charming to do that. Now, never stop charming her.
Okay.
For instance, when you say, ma per fortuna una notte di luna, e qui la luna l'abbiamo vicina. So he's saying, don't be afraid. We're not alone here. It's a moonlit night, and we will have it as a neighbor, you know? So I'm going to be a little charming. So be consciously charming. Don't go for the high note. Don't get like that. Just let it happen. And then, do you have the music in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Do you speak Italian?
I'm relearning.
Okay. Do you know what the affret means?
Via fret? No.
Above l'abbiamo vicina?
L'abbiamo vicina.
It means hurry up.
Yeah, I was like, it's like.
And do you know why? Do you know why he's hurrying up?
Because she's like taken aback. She's.
That's right.
Off guard.
That's right. So don't take, I know there's a tradition of doing this, but don't take so much time. L'abbiamo vicina, aspet, go on. Don't give her time to escape. I mean, she's there. You wait like 2 seconds and she's out the door. So
Okay.
don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. And one other thing, don't breathe. You breathe too often, and it's a pity. And a couple times I think you breathe in the wrong place. For instance, you should be, if you don't give too much voice for your money notes and you do the affrettando, you should be able to get through E qui la luna l'abbiamo vicina. There's no reason to breathe again before vicino because it makes it sound like you're short of breath.
Yeah.
And and you do that on the video too. So may be very conscious. And the fact is, you do a couple of phrases that are long enough that I know you do not have a problem getting through long phrases. So just decide, I'm going to sing through this phrase in one breath and not, So in the next thing, I think you should breathe after the high B flat. Chi son. I think you should sing Le dirò con due parole chi son, and then breathe. Chi son, and then breathe again. Can you come back in after the B flat on the A flat in a quasi piano, and then sing through? E che faccio come. In other words, breathe with the actual text, breathe with the commas.
Okay.
And breathe kind of the way you wrote it.
Okay.
Could you, I don't want to get messed up here, so could you just do that a cappella?
Chi son?
Could you start with aspetti signorina?
Yeah, and then breathe with what the breath marks say here.
That's right.
Okay, awesome. Let me just move my music here. All right. So.
Okay.
Aspetti, signorina, le dirò con due parole.
No, don't breathe.
Oh.
Don't breathe. And don't get slower. He writes a tempo. Aspetti, signorina. Breathe here. Well, le dirò con due parole chi son. E dirò con due parole chi son. Comma, chi son, comma, e che faccio, comma, comma. In other words, wherever there's a comma, breathe, but not when there isn't.
Okay.
I know that's a big adjustment, but I'd really like to hear you try it if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think with my score, it has those commas where that it was not, we didn't want to breathe. So let me just erase those real quick. All right.
This is difficult for singers to change their breathing because they've learned it a certain way. And then this guy comes in and, and you've never met before and you're online and you're trying to be cooperative and stuff like that. But he's saying things that your teacher's not going to like, but just bear with me. Okay. Just try it for me. Okay.
Yeah.
So once more,
Okay.
Breathe at the commas, but not before. So when you breathe after signorina, no, you're going to sing through.
Okay.
To the next comma.
So, aspetti, signorina. Le dirò con due parole.
I'm sorry. Esteban, you're getting too slow and you won't make it. E dirò con due parole chi son. Don't get, if you put on the brakes, you're not going to get through it.
Okay.
So once more.
Aspetti, signorina.
Here.
Le dirò con due parole chi son? Breath. Chi son? Oh wait, breath before that.
Please, please.
Yeah.
Because for one other reason, I want a diminuendo on that B flat.
Okay.
And then I want you to breathe and go on in piano or quasi piano, not okay, gentle again. Like, oh my God, I hope I wasn't too loud for her yet.
Okay. So decrescendo. Okay.
So
Perfect.
make a nice crescendo and then come back. So once more.
Aspetti, signorina, le dirò con due parole chi son? Chi son? E che faccio come vivo?
Gentle. Okay, now the rhythm on that was a little funky. You need to get used to to breathing in the rhythm, but you did that very well.
Thank you.
I mean, when I ask for something like that, I know that not every singer can breathe and then come back in on a high note, and so they'd rather sing through, which is the reason for this tradition, obviously. But when I hear that you can do it the way it's written, I think, okay, why not?
Okay.
So
No, yeah.
let's move on.
Okay.
So, chi son?
Chi son? Chi son?
Okay, no. Can you do it with the backtrack from there on? Because it should have stopped around there.
Yes. Let me.
So just to think ahead. You're saying now. So I'd like to tell you who I am and how I live. Who am I? I'm a poet. So the chi son is in forte. Sono un poeta is in piano. Che cosa faccio? Scrivo. E come vivo? Vivo. So mix it up dynamically.
Okay.
Don't go into this autopilot forte. So can we start right there? Chi son?
Yeah.
If it works with the backtrack.
Chi son? Chi son? Sono un poeta. Che cosa faccio? Scrivo. E come vivo? Vivo!
Go on.
In povertà mia lieta, scialore gran Signore, rimedi in d'amore, per sogna per chimere, e castelli in aria. L'anima umilianaria.
Now, the way this aria is going to go on is with the first money notes.
Okay.
This is a moment that everybody who knows this aria is waiting for. When you sing "Talor dal mio," and it should sound, it says here, con molta. It says con molto espressioni, but it should say con molta espressioni because espressione is feminine. So somebody wrote it wrong here. But it's also officially in piano.
Okay.
So can you give us the money note quality of it, which you do so beautifully, but not let it all go because because the best stuff is still going to come. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I can do that.
So just have it very, very velvety and warm and with lots of expression, but don't oversing it yet.
Okay.
And then, before you go on, here's another request I have in terms of the breathing. You say, talor dal mio forziere ruban tutti gioielli due ladri, colon, gli occhi belli. And that's where I want you to breathe.
Okay, so after li.
Ruban tutti gioielli due ladri, gli occhi, because he's doing something poetic here.
Yeah.
He's saying, you know, because sometimes someone comes and steals two thieves come and steal all the jewels out of my treasure house. And those thieves are two beautiful eyes. So exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got to deliver the punchline.
Okay.
And you have to breathe accordingly. So
Okay.
can we go from the talor?
Okay, just to make sure. Ruban tutti gioielli, breath.
No,
Okay, no.
because that's what you're used to doing.
Yeah.
Ruban tutti gioielli due ladri, colon.
Ladri. Okay.
So sometimes two thieves come and steal them. And those thieves are two beautiful eyes.
Yeah.
So that's the way you have to breathe.
Okay.
So just think of breathing it the other way, the way you're not used to.
Okay. Okay, it's talor with piano, right?
Yeah. Breathe well. No, it's great if you can sing it through, but I actually wanted you to breathe before gli occhi belli.
I'm like, piano. Okay.
Ruban tutti gioielli due ladri, gli occhi belli. You know, because when you say these two beautiful eyes, that has to be set apart so that she melts.
Yeah. Okay.
Once more, please.
Yes.
Same thing, if you don't mind. Breathe well. Yeah, good. Go on.
Okay.
Go on.
Entrar con voi por ora ed I miei son usati e I miei son miei tossosini leguar mai la futtana m'ancora poiché
Stop right there.
Yes.
That's too loud.
On the poike.
Yes.
Okay.
That's got to be the 0 point.
Okay.
And also, just to be pedantic, it's my furto non m'ancora, nicht m'ancora. The la is on the 2. Mal furto non m'ancora. And those of us who know this aria inside and out will notice something like that.
Yeah.
So make sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's.
Okay.
So can we just go from there? Can you back up just 2 seconds? Because then the piano should actually be playing in pianissimo. And that's when you get to the forte.
Okay.
Da, 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 poiché. And then do the crescendo. It will be more effective.
Okay. So
Believe me, Puccini knew exactly how to show his singers off to best effect. So can we do it from then and then finish?
Yeah, before the poiché, right?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect.
No. Back up. I need that crescendo.
Okay.
Da, 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 poiché. And then, now you show us.
Okay, awesome. Let me just back up.
So, in other words, don't jump the gun.
Okay.
So back up a little bit more.
Okay. Ora poiché va presa stanza la speranza.
Now stay on the support.
Okay.
Go on.
Perché mi conoscete.
Now, can I just interrupt you there? First of all, folks, I want you to take note. That high C, I mean the big number, because that's a high C. He can not only do it in this video that he sent, he can do it live, standing in front of his stairs with the dogs barking outside. I mean, remember this guy, okay? Now, however, once you come down, keep your placement. You're a little bit hit or miss on this E flat, and the E flat happens a lot. If you don't try to give too little, you keep the sound and it's good.
Okay.
So can we do right from there after the big climax?
Oh, you didn't want to hear another high C?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, give me a minute.
Sure. I mean, who's going to say no to a high C that good?
Oh, thanks.
It's something you don't hear every day.
No, thank you. All right. Poiché va presa stanza la speranza. Perché mi conoscete. Parlate voi de parlar vecchi siete. Vi piaceri.
That's really good. That's really good. There are just two things I want to say before we let you go. Give as much attention to the quality and the sense and the way you want to express the other notes, especially the ones right before the big notes and right after, so that there isn't such a discrepancy between your fantastic high notes and the notes right before and after that aren't so high. We must never think, well, okay, I mean, I have to sing them, so I will, and I sing them, but it's got to be 100%.
Yes.
And I don't mean loud. I mean the same sort of focus on all the notes. And the other thing I want to leave you with is, if you can, find somebody, if possible, maybe a woman, but it doesn't have to be a woman, who practice this aria with, this scene, who's standing across from you, so that you have a sense that the impulses that are all written out by Puccini are happening sort of spontaneously because of what's going on with her reactions, or she's about to leave or something like that, so that we have the feeling not that you've learned this and you've learned it really well and you can deliver the goods, but that it's actually happening right now.
Okay.
You do that a little bit, but I think if you can practice with somebody, it will make it more real and it will sound more real.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you want to ask before I say goodbye to you?
No, just this is my journey, and I'm ready to start singing for the world. So, thank you for accepting me, and we can connect and collaborate and everything. And I'm gonna find a girl, and and I'm gonna work on specifically the things that bring up to the money notes, and especially with knowing what the composer put, because Puccini knew what he was doing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there are certain composers, they're a little, you have to figure out how to interpret it. But people like Puccini, they were so successful at their operas in most cases because they know theatrically exactly how to package it, how to sell it, how to deliver it. And I'm not saying that anybody who follows these directions is going to have a great high C, but it will certainly help put it across in a very professional, complete way.
All right.
So thanks very much for joining us. Take care and please stay in touch, okay?
I will. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
So last up is now I want you to know, folks, I never met these people before. And in most of my master classes, these are people who've applied, who've been recommended to me, or I was recommended to them. And I'm very aware of their willingness, and I appreciate their willingness to put themselves into the hands online in front of who knows how many people to take my advice and try to make the best of it. And it might be very different from what they're used to doing or what they're used to hearing. And so I want to express my appreciation to these people. Our third singer, though, is someone I know very well. I spent 3 years working at the State Opera House in Augsburg, which is a neighboring city to Munich, which is where I live. And there I worked a lot and spent a lot of time also privately with a Dutch baritone named Wiard Witholt. And we've done a lot of opera together, and we've also done song recitals together. And he knows a lot of my songs. He's not going to tell you this, but he's an incredibly talented bookbinder. So if you ever have old volumes of music or cherished volumes or something like that that you want somebody to do an incredible job on in terms of bookbinding, Wiard is the guy. But that's not his real reason for being here. At least I don't think it is. His reason is to work with me on a song of mine, a song that I've sung often and that I have also recorded on one of my CDs, but I've never heard it sung by anybody else. And so I was saying before, I'm going to throw up some questions without necessarily being able to deliver definitive answers. And one of these questions is going to be, how can someone else sing one of my songs in his own way or her own way? And I try to be receptive to a different point of view, because actually, I do want somebody else's point of view. So Wiard is going to give me his point of view on a song of mine. And I put down the backtrack for him. So he's singing to my piano playing and trying to make the best of it. And then we will work together a little bit with this backtrack on a song of mine called A Place to Stay. And I'm going to ask him to sing it on his video and then tell us a little bit about it. So take it away, Wiard.
When I got on a bus the other day, many long years ago, and the night outside was dark and cold, and I felt so young and felt so old, as I traveled far and farther away through places I seemed to know. And the sun came up in a distant land I never had seen before, and I looked at a driver full of doubt, but he laughed in my face and pushed me out. Yes, he raised a huge and threatening hand and he shoved me out the door. Come tomorrow, you can send me on your way, but today, won't you give me a place to stay? Now I noticed that I was on a plane, or maybe it was a ship, and the sky so big, the sea so deep, that I felt myself begin to weep. When I woke, I was alone on a train on my dark and endless trip. Come tomorrow, you can send me on my way, but today, won't you give me a place to stay? Oh, won't you take me in, kind stranger, and comfort me and give me food and drink? Hear my story, stroke my head, share your love and share your bed. Take away all the danger, 'cause I'm much too tired to think. Won't you take me in, kind stranger, and comfort me and give me food and drink? Hear my story, stroke my head, share your love and share your bed. Take away all the danger, 'cause I'm much too tired to think. I can see that a journey's brought you here, just as it did for me. it's luck that I should appear. Perhaps it was meant to be. Come tomorrow, I may send you on your way. But today, I will give you a place to stay.
Hello, Wiard.
Hi, Ted.
So nice to see you. We're so close and yet so far away. We don't get to see each other much anymore, especially because of the restrictions here in Germany. But I know that you're there, and you know that I'm here.
Yeah, I do.
Now we are joined by my song, and I would like to start by, now, folks. This song it's a little complex. It's actually sort of a scene being played out, and it's sort of a dreamscape. It's supposed to be sort of surreal, and it's about the search for a place to stay, meant in a metaphorical sense too. But I'd like to ask you, Wiard, if you don't mind, to read us the text of the song as dramatically or undramatically as you choose to do before we hear you sing it again. Because, folks, I just want to tell you, it's actually a dialogue. Or there's a narrator. He's saying about this trip that he took, or was it a dream or something like that? And then he's asking someone to take him in for most of the song. And at the very end, the other person replies. So if you don't mind, wow, that picture is great, Wiard, fantastic. Really, unbelievable. So if you don't mind just reading us the text so that we know what
Yeah. I'm a bit nervous for an American and English-speaking audience to recite an English text. I've never done this before in my life. So I will give it a try. Okay. Well, I got on a bus the other day, many long years ago, and the night outside was dark and cold, and I felt so young and felt so old as I traveled far and farther away through places I seemed to know. And the sun came up in a distant land I never had seen before. And I looked at the driver full of doubt. But he laughed in my face and pushed me out. Yes, he raised a huge and threatening hand and he shoved me out the door. Come tomorrow, you can send me on your way. But today...
No, I'm sorry. You sing that wrong too. It's very important that we understand. Come tomorrow, you can send me on my way.
Come tomorrow, you can send me on my way. But today, won't you give me a place to stay? Now, I noticed that I was on a plane, or maybe it was a ship. And the sky so big, the sea so deep, that I felt myself begin to weep. When I woke, I was alone on a train on my dark and endless trip. Come tomorrow, you can send me on my way. But today, won't you give me a place to stay?
Now comes the bridge.
Oh, won't you take me in, kind stranger, and comfort me and give me food and drink? Hear my story, stroke my head, share your love and share your bed. Take away all the danger, 'cause I'm much too tired to think.
And then comes this very long piano solo.
I can see
the bridge.
I can see that the journey's
No, I want to hear you repeat the bridge, because when you sing it, you do it differently.
Oh, won't you take me in, kind stranger?
Won't.
Oh, won't you take me in, kind stranger, and comfort me and give me food and drink? Hear my story, stroke my head, share your love and share your bed. Take away all the danger, 'cause I'm much too tired to think.
Now the other one speaks.
I can see that a journey's brought you here, just as it did for me. And it's getting dark and colder now, and you need to rest your heart somehow. So perhaps it's luck that I should appear. Perhaps it was meant to be. Come tomorrow, I may send you on your way. But today, I will give you a place to stay.
Good, good. Now, nobody is going to think that you come from Cleveland, Ohio, but that's okay because
I'm from Rotterdam, South Holland.
yeah, I mean, that's so much better. Not everybody can be from Cleveland, Ohio. And when you sing it, of course, we don't notice quite so much accent, but it's something that we need to work a bit on the vowels. For instance, of, love, won't, don't, things like that. So, but now here's a question. Wiard is an experienced song interpreter, but I think he's even more experienced as an opera performer. I mean, he's done countless roles on the opera stage. And I personally like it very much when somebody brings operatic experience and instincts to my songs and dramatizes them a little bit. And you do that to a certain extent, not consistently on the video, but the impulses are there, and I greet them. I'm very happy to hear somebody trying to, because as I say, the text is a little bit surreal, and it contradicts. You asked me about this. You said, am I understanding this wrong? No, you're not. You do say, I got on a bus the other day, many long years ago, and the night outside was dark and cold, and I felt so young and felt so old as I traveled far and farther away through places I seemed to know. So we're having the sense all the time of it's familiar and totally strange, and it's very confusing, and it should be confusing. So that's something, an awareness that you have to always have as you sing. And I find that some of the words are very easy to understand, but sometimes you get a little bit too intimate in terms of using your voice, and then we lose the support and the focus and the understandability of the words. And since I also wrote the words, it's really, really important to me that they're as understandable as possible. So when you're not singing mezzo forte or forte, make sure that the focus, that the intensity is still there. Now, one other thing I want to talk about is, and this is another question that I want to throw out to everybody, because I get asked it a lot by singers, and with good reason. They say, well, Ted, I like your song and I wouldn't mind singing it. And by the way, just to put in a quick plug for collaborations, I am open to other people singing my songs, and I will be happy to collaborate with them, playing the piano part, and they're recording with them, on video, and we'll put it up on my YouTube channel, on yours and everything, and it will get us enormous attention from the entire world. And that's what Wiard and I am going to do. But they do ask, and with good reason. So, but what do I do during the piano solo? Do I leave the stage? Do I turn my back? Do I look like I'm experiencing it directly? Am I emoting it? Do I come over to the piano and pretend to be playing it? What's going on? And I think it's a good question, because I write all these songs originally for me, and I sing them and play them. So I don't have that problem. at some point, I just stop singing and play the piano. And, that makes life a lot easier, believe me, than when I have to sing and play. But if you're just singing, I say just, what do you do? And I have to tell you, Wiard, I think from what I saw on the video, you're on your way to finding a very good solution, because I have the feeling you're listening to what's going on in the piano part and you're agreeing. You're experiencing it too.
Opera, isn't it? In opera and song, it's listen to the music, and the music will guide you through the gestures and through the mood. That's what happens in opera and in song.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think you do it really, really well. You don't try to take the spotlight, but you are there, and your presence is felt. And I feel that you're participating in my solo. And as I say, it all comes out of me, the singing and the playing, the voice part, the words, and the piano part. And so why shouldn't we also have the sense with the singer that it's also coming out of the singer, what I'm playing? It's all, we're both singing it, but it's all the same content. So I'm very happy to see the way you experience it for our eyes while I'm playing. So could we just go back, and I made a backtrack for Wiard that leaves out the piano solos so that we don't have to listen to that again. I mean, once is enough. And I would like to hear you bring the text to life more. And also your intonation, you sometimes you go a little flat if you're not supporting it completely. And I also find that you're not completely present as you need to be at the beginnings of phrases. So can we do it again? And I might interrupt, but let's just start. It's already very good.
The right backtrack now without the interlude, but I can jump through it. There's no problem.
It's the shorter one.
Yeah, well, but I will jump through it because I've got this recording now, the real backtrack with the interlude, but because of the tempo and the stuff. But okay. I will jump it. That's no problem.
Okay, fine.
So let's start.
Yes.
When I got on a bus the other day.
You came in too late. You came in a half bar too late. Das geht nicht gut. Start it again. Now.
When I got on a bus the other day, many long years ago, and the night outside was dark and cold, and I felt so young and felt so old, as I traveled far and farther away through places I seemed to know. And the sun came up in a distant land I never had seen before. And I looked at the driver full of doubt, but he laughed in my face and pushed me out. Yes, he raised a huge and threatening hand, and he shoved me out the door.
And now comes your question.
Come tomorrow, you can send me on my way. But today, won't you give me a place to stay?
Stop. That's already very good. At some point we'll get together and we'll fix the pronunciation a little bit. But just to make everybody aware, so far he's been narrating this strange journey, or is it a dream or something like that. And then at the refrain, because that's the refrain where he goes, come tomorrow, you can send me on. Suddenly he's addressing a specific person. And we don't know who that is. I think we have some Rückkopplung there. We've got some feedback coming from you. I think it's from you.
From
Is
me?
that possible?
I don't know.
Okay, maybe it's from me, but that's better. No, it's not.
Oh, didn't I turn it off? Yeah, echo. I have the echo cancellation. I don't know.
Okay. It
Sorry.
doesn't matter. It's not so, but suddenly we should have the feeling that you're not narrating, you're speaking to someone in front. You've knocked on somebody's door and you're saying, could you just take me in like for the night? Just this one night? And you can send me away tomorrow, but just a place to stay tonight. So we're going to go on now to the second verse, but I would like to say, it's a little choppy. Come tomorrow, you can send me on my way. But today, don't get off the notes too early. I'm saying this because we're going to hear this refrain very soon again. So just go on now to the second verse.
Yeah.
Back it up a couple of seconds.
Now I noticed that I was on a plane, or maybe it was a ship. And the sky so big, the sea so deep, that I felt myself begin to weep as I traveled down. When I woke, wrong text. When I woke, I was.
That's right. Go back. So this is a more private moment, and the sky's so big. So I mean, suddenly we're in this, and you're not on a bus. You're on a plane, or maybe it's a ship. Who knows? But in any case, the sky is so big, the sea is so deep, that you feel yourself beginning to weep. And then you wake up and you're alone on a train on this dark and endless trip. So this is all really important to me. So can we do that verse again?
Yep.
Now I noticed that I was on a plane, or maybe it was a ship. And the sky so big, the sea so deep, that I felt myself begin to weep. When I woke, I was alone on a train on my dark and endless trip.
Now it's different.
Come tomorrow, you can send me on my way. But today, won't you give me a place to stay? Oh, won't you take me in, kind stranger, and comfort me and give me food and drink? Hear my story, stroke my head, share your love and share your bed. Take away all the danger, 'cause I'm much too tired to think.
Good. That's very good. So can we jump to the end of the solo?
Yeah.
And we're going to hear this bridge again. And then the other person, I don't know whether it's a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, but someone who came to the door and Wiard said, won't you take me in for the night? You know, I'm so tired, you know, and I'm lonely. I need a little love, and I wouldn't mind something to eat too, if you don't mind, you know, and then you can stroke my head because, you know, things are really tough. And then he answers and says,
I can see.
yes. And he says, you know, that's how I got here too. You know, I can see you're on a journey, and this journey brought you here, and it did the same for me. And look, look outside. It's getting dark. and colder now, and you need to rest your heart somehow. So maybe it was fate that brought us together. So there has to be something very warm and tender and welcoming about the way this other person answers. So we're going to hear the last bridge, and after the piano solo, and then the other guy speaking.
Oh, won't you take me in, kind stranger, and comfort me and give me food and drink. Hear my story, stroke my hand, share your love and share your bed. Take away all the danger, 'cause I'm much too tired to think. I can see that a journey's brought you here, just as it did for me. And it's getting dark and colder now, and you need to rest your heart somehow. So perhaps it's luck that I should appear, perhaps it was meant to be. Come tomorrow, I may send you on your way. But today, I may give you a place to stay.
That's really very, very good. There are a lot of details that we'll work out, hopefully in person, when I visit you in Augsburg or you visit me in Munich. And folks, you have a wonderful video to look forward to on my channel, Ted Ganger Songs, as a Song of the Week featuring special guest star Wiard Witholt, because it's already, I mean, I really have the feeling that you've gotten inside the song now, and it really makes me very, very happy to see that, especially with someone who's such a good friend. So thank you.
I've just one little remark. I was really thinking very much of Wirtshaus in Winterreise when I read the text so much, and it's also like some surrealistic dialogue not really happening, sort of happening. Someone who's not being let in, someone who wants to travel, who's tired, and it's like sort of it's life. And you are at some place you think I would like to stay here, but as a singer, you know, life is gonna go on, and you're gonna probably move somewhere else in some years, and that's life.
That's beautiful, Wiard. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for this song. It's really inspiring.
So we will talk very soon, I'm sure of it, and hopefully see each other again soon. So
Absolutely.
I thank you very, very much for our work together here online. And I thank actually all of you for tuning in on this. Wiard, of course, and Judith, and Esteban, and all of you, many millions of people out there who have tuned in, and you can watch this again. It will remain on Facebook, and maybe Wiard will share it too. Anybody is welcome to share it. It will also be on my YouTube channel. And if any of you, first of all, any singers who would like to participate in these masterclasses and feel like you are ready to work in a more or less professional way on arias or lieder, please do apply. And you are more than welcome. And I thank you for tuning in tonight and being part of this. As you see, we're just winging it. You know, some of these people I've never met before, they've never met me. So nobody knows what's going to happen. But I hope that it was interesting for all of you. And I will look forward to seeing you again, probably in 4 weeks' time, with new singers and new repertoire. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them to me. So thank you very much, all of you. Oh, and also, before you leave, my warmest thanks to my helpful team in London, Ivana Karabova, and my dear friend and colleague Magdalena Herfurtner, who, believe me, made this possible. None of this would have even been a gleam in my eye without Magdalena's help. So we all owe her a big vote of thanks. So have a good rest of the day, or good evening, or good night, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, Ted.
Bye.